that was a tough watch. I don't even know where to begin. Well, I can just begin here. Welcome back, guys. Hope everybody's having a great day today. I know I am. I was supposed to work today, then I got VTA'd. If you don't know what that means they didn't need you, so they sent you home. There wasn't a lot of work. Not enough physical work for me, so that's less money I have in my pocket. That's not the point of this video. This video is about a Canadian prison film involving teenagers. And the reason I say prison film is because it's not really a prison, but it is a prison. It's a juvenile prison. It's set up like a prison. It's not a juvenile. It's not your average juvenile detention center where it's like, oh, you got in a fight or you get to spend a couple nights here and juvie. No, these kids are hardened criminals, and I'm going to go ahead and talk about the plot. The plot, we have three main characters. We got Angel, who is a thief. He stole a car. We got Davis, who is a drug dealer, and he's a bit of a womanizer, but I mean, that's not really a crime, but he's a drug dealer, and he's not very tough, when that's important later. And we got Butch, who is tough, and he's a fucking badass, and he's got major anger problems, and he's doing time for assaulting. He's getting transferred from a juvenile center to another one for assaulting a correctional officer that was supposedly being abusive to him and other inmates. And what these three kids have to deal with, I have no words for. This movie is the one that made me never want to go to prison. So let me just go ahead and start with this movie. If you like light-hearted films, stay away from this one. This one is not geared towards people who like happy movies, because this is not a happy movie at all. There's some funny moments here and there, and we'll get into that. But like I said, if you're not into dark dramas, this is not the movie for you. Let's go ahead and start out with the cons. There's very few cons with this movie, but there are some plot holes, and one specifically is there is a subplot that didn't really make sense, because it was involving Butch and this long-haired, curly-headed dimwit and this guy Shadow, I believe was his name. And that subplot, I didn't know what was going on, like why they were fighting or why they were, having altercations with one another. And I when I rewatched it, this is like the first time I've watched the movie. I watched the movie back in 2010 when it came out for the first time, and this is the first time in 8 years I've watched this movie. And I didn't understand that subplot then, and I don't understand it now. Maybe I missed something, and that's kind of a plot hole, because it's just kind of thrown in there without any like real substance. It was kind of just, we'll just push, we'll just give Butch another enemy so we can exploit his badassery. And they did that very well, but they didn't really like write like a subplot, like an actual flat subplot. They didn't do anything like that. They kind of just gave Butch somebody else to beat up. But other than that, there's really not any other cons I can say. Other than, like I said, this movie is not for everybody. Let's get into the pros now. The pros, the acting is off the hook here. I don't know who any of these actors are other than the guy who played Butch. I've seen him in a few other movies, a few other B films, I guess, and he was surprising. Like, this guy is really talented, I have to say. And all of the supporting cast was phenomenal. Like, that you were convinced that these kids were hardened criminals. That just the dialogue, the way they would talk to one another, saying, "Oh, I'll cut your nuts off," and all that. Well, yeah, that sounds like something some little punk-ass juvenile delinquent would say. And surely enough, there was a little kid running around there threatening to cut off the main antagonist's balls and stuff like that. And I thought that was fucking hilarious. Some more pros. The tone is just, it's really, really, it takes a toll. It'll take a toll on you, because it's just From the moment the movie starts till it ends, there is tension throughout the air the entire time. You don't know what's going to happen. You know, you've got people in prison staring each other down all the time. It's like, what's about to happen here? Like, obviously no good is going to come of this. There's going to be a fight, somebody's going to get killed, somebody's going to get raped, and we're going to talk about that specifically in a little bit. It's just the tone is so good. There's some funny moments here and there, like there's just some pure gold dialogue, but it's stuff you would hear in a prison, like dirty sex jokes and all that. Like there's even a story where Davis tells the character Davis, the womanizer, the drug dealer. He tells a story how he was spending the night at his girlfriend's house. He had sex with his girlfriend's mother, who was like really hot. That when you listen to that whole story, this dialogue is just gold, And that's another pro is the dialogue. All of the dialogue is great. It feels like they're actually in prison or in jail or in juvie, however you want to look at it. If you look at jail and prison as the same thing, I mean they're not, but if you look at it as the same thing, that's up to you, I guess. The dialogue is fantastic, and just the dialogue and the funny stuff, because there's another scene in this movie where I found absolutely hilarious where they're painting this wall, and Davis and this other guy, I can't remember this, there's this fourth guy they kind of added in there, and I didn't remember his name, but he was I was kind of in on his character. He didn't really serve much to the plot like Davis, Butch, and Angel did, but this fourth character had a crush on the teacher there for their schooling and all that. Miss Davis, I think was her name. And, I mean, she's a very good-looking, attractive woman. And this dude's, like, all the time wanting to have sex with her and all that. And Davis said that he did have sex with her. And they were discussing, like, what she looked like naked and all that. Like, saying, she had a bush and all that. And 36D titties and all that. And then Angel decides he's going to paint a picture of a naked lady with stuff dripping out of her vagina, and I'm just all like, this is just pure gold. Like, this feels just like a prison movie. This feels like 15, 16, 17-year-old kids in prison, because I used to witness all this kind of stuff in high school, and nothing that I talked about or witnessed in high school and middle school and whatnot amounted to what happened in any kind of prison or juvenile detention center, rather. It was just so funny, and then from that point, something else happens. And I'm not going to spoil this movie too much for you, because I want you guys to watch it first. I'm spoiling stuff that's not too important to the plot. That's not important. Another pro is the cinematography is really good. They didn't go too overboard with the shaky cam. They used enough shaky cam, especially the fight scenes, the violent scenes. I felt like they didn't use the shaky cam too much, and shaky cam can get kind of annoying at times, unless it's like Saving Private Ryan or anything. Shaky cam works there, and it works here as well. But I mean, when you film a movie like, if it was filmed the same direction as Alex Cross, I probably would have hated this movie, because I hate Alex Cross, and that movie can die a fiery death. Dog Pound didn't use a lot of shaky cam, but they used just enough to kind of convince you, shit's going down right now. But, and I think what makes this film really disturbing at times is that all of this violence is happening among children, practically. I mean, they're not like little kids or anything, but they're teenagers, 17, 16, 15 years old. And there is one of them that does get raped by another inmate that was one of Banks' goons. And I'm not going to tell you what all happened, what led to it, because like I said, I want you guys to see this movie. If you can, I can probably, if you privately message me, I can tell you where you can find it, or you can just leave it down in the comments, and I can get you hooked up with it. But it's not illegal or nothing. So I think I can almost call this an exploitation film, because there's just some things in this movie that would shock anybody. Especially with the rape scene. And I mean, some would argue it wouldn't shock gay people and all that. Well, I don't think gay people would really like seeing another man getting raped by another man. It's one thing when they're having like two gay dudes having consensual sex. If you're gay and you like that shit, awesome. I'm all for that. I'm all for it for you. But I think it's hard to watch just to see anybody get raped, let alone a man raping another man. I'm sorry, that was the lights. They do that quite often. Yeah, I don't think gay people would even enjoy this scene because rape isn't really a joke, especially in prison, and that shit happens in prison a lot. And just the fact that it's going on among teenagers is just 10 times more disturbing, and it shows you what prison is. You know, this feels like a legit, like you're, if this feels like like you're, they're actually in prison. It feels like you are somebody. There is a documentary crew walking around filming everything inside of an actual prison. That's what this feels like. And I mean, this movie is just incredible. I don't think it's the best prison movie of all time, but it's up there in my top 5. I'm gonna give this movie an A minus because it would have got an A or an A plus, but there was that subplot that was kind of thrown in there that I felt like didn't really need to be thrown in there or anything. But I mean, that's Dog Pound for you. I highly recommend you guys check this movie out if you're into prison movies, or I can almost call this an exploitation film because there's some shocking shit. I don't know if I already said that or not. I've got a lot on my mind. But yeah, definitely check this one out. Well, guys, that's it for this review. I hope everybody has a great rest of your day. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and we're out.